Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning, friends, and welcome to Storytime in the Woods. You can probably hear the cicadas. They are still so loud this morning. As soon as the sun comes up, they start buzzing. They buzz all day until nighttime. The woods around me are just filled with their little exoskeletons, and if I look up the trees, I can see the bugs with their wings crawling up the trees. They spend their whole day singing like this to each other. It is pretty interesting, and it is also pretty loud. Hopefully it doesn't bother you during our story. Friends, it is a little bit of a chilly day here, even though it's the beginning of summer. And I have a funny and sweet story to share with you. I have a story to share with you this morning about Grandpa Ivy going on a river adventure. I live very close to a river, close to several rivers. My whole town is along a river, and my friends and my family, we love to spend our summers floating down the river, just like Grandpa Ivy. Let's call the story fairies and hear the story of Grandpa Ivy's river adventure. Story fairies, come and bring stories clear and true. Story fairies, come and bring stories to our story ring. Grandpa Ivy lived in a little town named Riverbend. And if you've already heard stories about Grandpa Ivy, you might know why his town is called Riverbend. It's named that because his town is right in the bend of a river. In fact, the river comes one way and then it makes such a big turn that it looks like it goes back to where it comes from. And right there in that bend of the river is where you'll find the town of Riverbend. Grandpa Ivy has lived in Riverbend as long as he can remember, and he's always loved the river. His favorite way to get to know the river is by floating down it in the summer and fishing along its banks and even swimming in it. One morning, Grandpa Ivy woke up and he checked his garden like he does every morning. And then he went down by the river to sit on the riverbank for a few minutes. As he was sitting there watching the river as it shimmered and glimmered down and away from his home, the sun was coming up and warming the sand. Grandpa Ivy thought this would be a great day to float down the river. So he went back to his house and got ready. He got his life jacket and some snacks and his raft. All he had to do was walk a trail up along the river and put in his raft, and then he could float back home. And that's exactly what he did. He got to his put-in spot and got his raft blown up and put in the water. He put on his life jacket and grabbed his snacks and his oar, and in he got. He used his paddle to push him away from the shore. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Grandpa Ivy floated down the river, following the current this way and that. He soon floated past a boggy area, and the air filled with the sounds of frogs. Right as he was looking at the bog and enjoying the frog songs, he saw a familiar head stick up out of the water. It was Little Frog. "Grandpa Ivy," said Little Frog, "where are you going, and can I come too?" Grandpa Ivy laughed and said, "Good morning, Little Frog. I am floating back to my house, and I would love to have you join me." Grandpa Ivy steered over to the shore just close enough that Little Frog could jump up in the raft, and Little Frog got settled in the back. And then Grandpa Ivy used his paddle to push off the shore and back into the current. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Grandpa Ivy and Little Frog, they floated this way and that way, following the river as it went, and soon they came to an area with lots of rocks and some fallen trees. As Grandpa Ivy and Little Frog were looking over the rocks and the trees, they saw a little hole in the top of one of the fallen trees, and out of that hole was sticking Little Mouse. Little Mouse saw Grandpa Ivy and said, "Hello, Grandpa Ivy. Where are you going?" "Well, Little Mouse, I'm floating down to the river back to my house, and Little Frog is joining me." "Oh, can I come?" said Little Mouse. Grandpa Ivy knew there was still plenty of room in the back of the raft, and he said, "I would love to have you, Little Mouse." And so he steered his raft over by the rocky shore so Little Mouse could scamper on and find a place to sit in the raft. Once they were all settled, Grandpa Ivy pushed off the shore once again and continued down the river. "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream." Grandpa Ivy and Little Frog and Little Mouse, they floated this way and that way, following the river as it went along. And soon they came to a very dense wooded area. It got a little darker because the trees were so close together. There were loads of pine trees, which were Grandpa Ivy's favorite. As soon as they got into the wooded area, they could hear the scampering of squirrels in the trees. And just then they heard a little voice say, "Hey, Grandpa Ivy!" Grandpa Ivy looked up into the pine trees and saw his friend Little Squirrel. "Where are you going, Grandpa Ivy?" "Well, Little Squirrel, I'm floating back to my house this morning, and I have my friends Little Frog and Little Mouse with me." "Oh, can I please come?" said Little Squirrel. Grandpa Ivy looked in the raft behind him, and he thought there was probably just enough room for Little Squirrel. So he said, "I would love to have you, Little Squirrel." And he steered the boat over close to the shore where Little Squirrel could scamper on. Little Squirrel found a place to sit and settled down in the back with the others, and Grandpa Ivy pushed them off the shore and went down the river. "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream." They went this way and that way, following the current of the river. Soon they left the pine forest, and they found themselves going along next to a meadow. The grasses were really tall, and as they were passing by, Grandpa Ivy could see the grasses moving this way and that way, like something was walking through them. Sure enough, something was. It was a little deer who soon poked out of the long grass. She was standing at the shore and said, "Grandpa Ivy, where are you all going?" "Well, little dear, I'm floating back to my house, and my friends Little Frog and Little Mouse and Little Squirrel are with me." "Oh, Grandpa Ivy, can I please come?" said Little Deer. Grandpa Ivy looked behind him, and he said, "Little Deer, I don't think there's any room left in the raft." Little Deer looked at the raft and then said, "Please, Grandpa Ivy, I'll stand up and I promise to be still." "Well," said Grandpa Ivy, as he thought about it for a few moments, "you must be very still, for if you're not, you could send the whole raft toppling into the river." Grandpa Ivy moved the boat close to the shore and let Little Deer carefully get on the raft. He put his 4 paws down in 4 little areas that didn't have anyone already sitting there. And then he said, "Okay, Grandpa Ivy, I am ready." Grandpa Ivy reminded him to stay still, and off they went down the river. "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream." Soon they were coming to the final big curve in the river before Grandpa Ivy's house. And Grandpa Ivy slowed the boat down and pulled it over into an eddy. And he said, "My friends, we're going through the last big curve and the last rapids before my house. Make sure you stay very still." And everyone stayed still, especially Deer. And just as they were heading into the rapids, on the other side of the shore, Big Bear poked his head out and said, "Hello, friends." Well, Little Deer was so excited to see her friend Bear that she jumped up and down before she even thought about it. and as soon as she started jumping, the raft teetered this way, and it tottered that way, and it leaned that way, and it rolled this way, and soon it was upside down, putting everyone into the river. It didn't take long before all the heads of the creatures were sticking up. Grandpa Ivy and Little Frog and Little Mouse and Little Squirrel and Little Deer were all swimming back to the rocky and sandy shore. They were all laughing and laughing. They couldn't believe they'd flipped over right at the end. Grandpa Ivy grabbed his raft, and they all sat together on the rocky riverside. And Grandpa Ivy said, "Friends, that was silly. I have an idea now. What if we go back to my house and sit in the sun and dry off, and then we enjoy a lunch? Plus, I have some delicious watermelon that needs to be eaten." Well, all the friends thought that was the perfect idea. So they gathered their things from the riverbank, and they walked up to Grandpa Ivy's house, where they spent the rest of the day together, drying off and eating delicious food. And all was well in the world. Friends, that's the story of Grandpa Ivy's river adventure. I hope it made you giggle. And I wonder if you've ever floated down a river in a raft. It can be a lot of fun. We have a raft, and we also have a kayak and a canoe. Those are all different kinds of boats that we can take down the river. And thankfully, we usually don't put so many people in our boats that we flip over. Friends, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being here while the cicadas buzz and scream in the woods and little drops of rain fall on me this morning. I think it's going to warm up from here. Friends, you matter to me. I hope you know that you are loved. I'll see you soon.